Coming up on this edition of the Racing Roundtable, I'm Tyler Jones, and I'm going to tell you why Joey Logano is not going to get to victory lane in 2026.
I'm Dominic, Aragon, and there's going to be a great dry spell that breaks in the Daytona 500 this weekend. Find out who.
I'm at Kemp, and I'm going to tell you why the Clash needs to go back to Daytona.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Racing Roundtable, formerly known as Let's Go Racing. We're so excited that you guys are here with us to begin a new season, 2026 NASCAR Cup Series racing. I am currently in the great state of Florida in Panama City Beach. I'll be making my way to Daytona here the next couple of days and cannot wait to be at the World Center of Racing for the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. And I'm so pleased to have both these guys with us along the way throughout the season. Dominic Aragon, who's been with me from the very beginning of this show. Matt Kemp, who joined us towards the end of last year. Guys, Dominic, starting with you, it doesn't get any better than the Daytona 500. I get goosebumps every single time I go through that tunnel and get to Daytona. When I've done this now 4 or 5 times, and this thing never gets old. Whether you're at the racetrack, you're watching on TV, it's just quite the spectacle, and can't wait to see it all again unfold as we begin this 2026 campaign.
One of the coolest feelings covering the sport, if you're spectating, if you're participating on the racetrack, like Matt knows, it doesn't matter where you fall on the fold. You drive through that tunnel in turns 3 and 4, Daytona International Speedway, and it's a really cool feeling to know you are at the World Center of Racing, to know so much history has happened at that place. Tyler, you get to do that here in a few days. That's really exciting. I'm really excited for you.
Oh, I will pay my respects to the Dale Senior statue. Raise hell, praise Dale. I'll make my way around everything, just kind of take it all in. And I feel like I discover something new every time I go to Daytona as well. And can't wait just to see how it goes. Matt Kemp is here with us as well. Matt, you've had the pleasure of hopping in a race car in the ARCA series, and you've been to Daytona before. I mean, there's just something different about that place, isn't it?
Oh, like you said, driving through the tunnel, there's nothing like it. The last couple of years, I've kind of gone down as a spotter, and even still driving through the tunnel and looking up, seeing the Daytona logo across the wall over there in the middle of turns 1 and 2, it's just kind of surreal. And then you look up at the grandstands, and I was fortunate enough to get to go as a spectator for the first time a couple of years ago, and the facilities are just incredible. So like all around, Daytona is the whole package. It's got everything you could possibly want for as a spectator, as a driver, as a crew member. Literally, as anybody within the sport, Daytona is the place that you want to be.
Well, and I think that's a good point, Matt, that you bring up, that anyone that's there plays no small role in their experience.
It's a
Everyone
great way to put
there
it. Absolutely.
matters in some sense, some fashion of some sorts. Whether you're a fan, we need as many fans as we can to pack that place out and make it the scene that it is. Whether you're a media member like us that's getting to tell the stories of what's going on there in Daytona, or if you're running for one of these race teams, it doesn't matter if it's the ARCA race or the Cup race. You're getting to make history in real time, and Dominic, like there's different races throughout the schedule that I think most people kind of just forget about, or by the time Monday rolls around, you're moving on to the next week. With Daytona, this stays with you.
It does. And then you get to the end of that Sunday night. Maybe you've had this feeling too, Tyler. Covered the race weekend, or you've watched it, whatever the deal is. Like, wow, that was the Daytona 500. Because it has such a feeling to it, like it's just capped off the season. Oh, no, wait, we got 35 more weeks to go. Like, oh, that's right, the season's just starting. It's such a unique thing because you hear this event be called NASCAR Super Bowl. And it is. It's the biggest race of the year. Daytona 500 champion and NASCAR champion tend to go on the same line, if you will, if you're talking resume stats. But it's so interesting to have that feeling because the Daytona 500 ends. It's like, oh, wait, no, this is not the end of the season. We are just getting started.
Yeah, let's begin, guys, with the two-time defending champion of the Daytona 500, William Byron, in the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports. And you look at his last two wins, um, it wasn't like that he completely dominated both races the last 2 years. Those were races that could have been won by anybody. But William Byron, I'm not taking away from what he's done, but he was able to capitalize and be at the right place at the right time and make the moves that he needed to. And you look at Chevy, they've done so well at Daytona the last few years. Matt, I haven't looked at the odds. We'll talk about the odds later, but it's very realistic that William Byron could be a three-time champion, that he could win this thing 3 years in a row. That's not without the realm of possibility. It would be remarkable if he did so, but I think that every discussion has to start with that 24 team and William Byron.
Yeah, it certainly does, and they're always going to come down there with the car capable of doing it. But hey, I think at these plate races that are kind of more like a lottery than ever, the law of averages comes into play, and I would not bet on them this weekend. I personally would not if you're looking at the law of averages. But again, two in a row, I would have never thought would even be possible in this era anyway. So who knows? He can go back and get number three, but it's going to be tough.
Well, and with the law of averages, along that, Dom, there is, I would say, a distinct advantage that he and the rest of Hendrick Motorsports have of being the powerhouse Chevrolet team, of having those four cars and four drivers and four cars that are all capable of running up front and winning this race, and that changes everything of just the advantage just where Hendrick and that 24 team has kind of on everybody else.
So 40 cars are going to start the race, regardless. We'll talk more about that here in a second. Entry list, all that. But realistically, what, maybe 20 of these guys can actually go out and win. I think a lot of the competitors would agree with that. And you can't count any of those 400 motorsports cars out. And you look at how the week's shaping up. You're going to look at the practice charts, qualifying. Who's going to win the pole tomorrow night or on Wednesday night? It's probably going to be a Hendrick Motorsports car if it's not a Ford car. So there's just something about Hendrick Motorsports dialing it in. And while I think Matt brings up a great point that a lot of averages tends to kind of bring things back to reality, I think you can't rule out the reality that Hendrick Motorsports is fast on these super speedways. And if three, if not four of those Hendrick cars are towards the front at the end of this race, they're going to work well together. And they're going to make sure a Hendrick vehicle comes away as the winner.
Yeah. When you got these powerhouse teams, Hendrick, Gibbs, of course, the only ones with four cars, but then you also talk about teams like Penske and Trackhouse and others. Matt, when if it's not Hendrick, then who do you see as being having the potential of being the Dominic team or the driver to watch throughout the weekend here?
Well, it's pretty consistent over the last couple of years that the Fords have been really good. So hard to go against any of the Penske cars. So you got Blaney, Joey Logano, and obviously Austin Cindric even won a couple of years ago. Again, kind of relying on teammates there, but I actually kind of disagree a little bit that only 20 cars could probably win. I think there's about 35 cars that could genuinely win the race. Maybe if you're talking about straight up, I think we'd be closer to 30 maybe, but I do think that it's anybody's race here, man. That's why anytime we come to these places, I will never bet on a favorite. I will always go for the long shot every time.
But you didn't give me a name, Matt. You didn't give me a name. You didn't give me an
Well, I
organization.
was trying to give you a
you watching
non-answer.
for?
All right, I don't want to be wrong. All right, all right, all right. We'll go with Ryan
Stop
Blaney.
being
How about
political.
it?
Give me some takes here.
Fair enough. Ryan Blaney. He's your Daytona 500 winner. There you go.
Now he's already given his pick. We're doing that later in the show. Matt, you're not in mid-season form by any means.
That's true. That's true. That's my bad, guys.
Dominic,
I'll pick someone else later.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure you will. Dominic, with Daytona, we mentioned even though that this has been very good for William Byron and Hendrick Motorsports, We've seen some great underdog stories. When you think about Trevor Bayne and Michael McDowell, and more recently Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who I got the chance to catch up with and do a one-on-one with this week. Those guys have their work cut out for them, but it's not impossible for those teams to rise to the occasion. But like anything else with Daytona, they're going to have to get a little luck go their way as well.
Yes, and there's a lot of luck that comes into this race. I think avoiding wrecks, fuel mileage, calculating, making sure that you have enough to make it to the end, accounting for overtime. There's just so many factors and variables that make it truly one of the greatest spectacles in racing. Of course, cautions, breeding cautions, and so many things that can happen with the day to night transition of the race, and weather, of course, too. And yeah, that's got to be on everyone's minds too. Maybe to deviate a little bit there, Tyler, but this looks like the third year in a row that potentially weather could impact the Daytona 500. That has to be on crew chiefs' mind and drivers' minds alike.
That's a big deal when weather involves, and if staying flexible, is the race going to get shortened? Is it going to get moved to later in the night or potentially on Monday? Those are all interesting factors that could potentially play a fold in how this race ultimately goes down. Matt, let's shift gears now and talk about the championship picture. This we mentioned this starts off the 2026 campaign, and we have some changes, and we'll talk about those as well. But when we look at the championship here, that's not your focus going into this weekend, but that's still the ultimate goal. And when I look at some of the names that we're talking about who could be in victory lane on Sunday, those are very well, for the most part, the same names we're talking about as being championship contenders at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of guys. I mean, you talk about the Hendrick guys, the Penske guys, the Gibbs guys. We haven't talked about them yet, but all of them have a very good shot to go out, and they've got numbers too, right? So all of them have a very good shot to go out and start their championship bid early. And this race, in the past, obviously you have your kind of your one-off winners, but for a lot of teams in the past too, I mean, it's carried momentum for them all throughout the regular season. I think honestly for Byron, I feel like the last few years he's been really good right off the bat and kind of carried the momentum for the first couple of months, and then kind of seems like he falls off during the summer, at least in the past years. But it definitely is a career-changing day, and I can only imagine what it does for a team's confidence being able to carry that forward in the season, regardless of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. Dominic, who is a driver or a team that has your early contention when it comes to this championship?
I feel like it's easy to say somebody like a Christopher Bell or William Byron or Denny Hamlin, these guys that have never won a championship, but this consistency type thing is going to be something to follow. But Chase Elliott also comes to mind because that 9 team was just criminally and ridiculously consistent throughout the 2025 season, to almost to a point where they were quietly that 4th to 7th place car. And most people would love to have a season like that, but it just wasn't to the expectation of many Hendrick Motorsports and Chase Elliott fans. But I think of drivers like that. I also think, Tyler, too, a season like this could help benefit somebody that has raced in this chase format. Now we're back to the chase, and it's a 10-race playoff. This could play to the favor of somebody like a Brad Keselowski, a Kyle Busch. Now that you've got the playbook a little bit more opened up on who can make the playoffs, and it's just straight up points. Denny Hamlin. I think some of the veteran experience will show throughout the season, and I would expect guys like that to have better seasons than maybe one might lead to think on.
You mentioned championship and Brad Keselowski in the same sentence. I'll tell you this right now. Brad Keselowski is not going to be a contender for the NASCAR Cup Series championship this year. I'll just go ahead and say that.
We can count that as another hot take, I think.
I think so. I think, Matt, yeah.
I think that's 100% honesty. I'll take any betters, any doubters on that whatsoever. How about getting into victory lane first, Brad? And then we could potentially talk about his championship hopes maybe down the line. With that, the chase making its return, Matt. I know a lot of people wanted full season points, but there was a crowd that still wanted a postseason of sorts. I think this is
Okay.
kind of a fair compromise for everybody here. It may not be perfect, but it's certainly better than what we had before.
Yeah, this is a tough subject because ultimately, I do believe the 36th race championship, where you don't have any resets or anything like that, is ultimately the best way to crown a true and deserving champion. Um, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen where, a 10 race chase absolutely is a great way to do it as well. So, and with all the changes they're making, obviously points being, what is it, 20 points now between first and second. So you talk about the Daytona 500, winning that race being a big deal. It's a big deal to finish first to second, and that, margin can come down to nothing, and that's worth 20 points. So obviously that can carry you a long way. So, with the championship coming down to the chase again this year, I think it's going to be more important than ever to be consistent and obviously win races.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal for sure. And I think, we got to talk about Kyle Larson here. He's the defending champion. And Kyle Larson, a two-time champion now in this sport. Looking forward to chatting with him in Daytona here in a couple of days, as we'll have a one-on-one with him over on NASCAR Roundtables. Be on the lookout for that on Friday. Kyle Larson, this guy, his two championships were very different from each other. And while it's with this next gen car, it's hard to imagine anyone doing what he did that first go round of winning, 7, 8, 9 races anymore on their way to a championship. But the consistency that he showed in getting those points finishes, even when he wasn't winning races, they found ways to be up front, and that's that to me, like, there's maybe it wasn't the sexiest championship, but I think there's some real momentum for that 5 team heading into 2026.
How can you not have momentum as the defending series champion? You get to hear that all season long. And that's definitely a shot in the arm to the 5 crew and Cliff Daniels and everyone working on that team. And you said it best, it wasn't a sexy season compared to 2021 when you have double-digit wins and you kind of luck into the championship in your second round. But those are the rules. That's how they were able to attain that second championship. But that's a name I'd left off when we were talking about this previous. But Kyle Larson of the 5 team, another scary, consistent 5 team is what we see with Cliff Daniels leading that charge in the 5 team. So Larson's going to be another name they have to contend with. And of course, being your defending series champion, how can you not have some natural momentum that's going to come with that?
I think the other name everybody has to bring up is Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin came so close to winning that championship, just short again, and then had an eventful offseason. It was very sad what happened with his father passing away tragically. And then, of course, you had the situation of the 2311 front row lawsuit with him being front and center of that. Matt, when I know that when you strap on those belts and get in the race car, your focus shifts and you get locked in. But it's hard to ignore everything that Denny's gone through in just a short amount of time in this offseason here. That's a lot for anybody, especially somebody that's already a team owner on top of everything else.
Yeah, between everything with all that and then the way he lost the championship too. I mean, obviously everything together, obviously it doesn't compare to what he had to go through over the offseason, but it's like, man, I don't know how you can, get your headspace in the right place going into the season. Obviously, you kind of don't have a choice. Time he's had some time obviously to take off, and I hope that that time has kind of helped him. But as a driver, when you sit in the seat and strap that helmet on and pull the belts over, I mean, ultimately it um, has a way of kind of taking you out of reality a little bit and putting you in your own little place. So I would hope that getting back in the car is going to help him a lot, but I don't know how you don't have that affect you for sure.
Yeah, that's not easy for anybody to take on. And with that as well, Dom, the clock is ticking on Denny Hamlin's chances to win a championship. He's had an amazing Hall of Fame career. He's won this Daytona 500 numerous times in the past, but still looking for that Cup championship. I would say that this format should be something that Denny Hamlin's probably happy about because of just the bad luck that he's had with that final race, whether it was at Homestead or Phoenix. And I guess, now we're going back to Homestead, of course. Um, you know, this should be, I would think, a welcome change for Denny Hamlin and that 11 team.
Yeah, again, leading to that experience of having raced in this format, a similar format, I guess, and being able to put together a good, strong 10 races. We've seen the 11 team be able to do that. And the clock is running, Tyler. This is now, if we're in his final 2 years, like we say, or he says he is in his final two full-time years, is he going to pull a John Alwick? Can he finally win a championship in the moonlighting hours and the twilight hours of his career? Better late than never. But even if he doesn't have a cup championship attached to himself when it's all said and done, it still is a Hall of Fame career. He's going to finish among the top 10 on the wins list like he had hoped to. Wouldn't shock me if he pushes 70 wins before it's all said and done. But a great career nonetheless. A lot of horrible tragedies and a lot of just heartbreak with the 11 team and Denny personally too off the track over the offseason. So it's going to be very fascinating to follow his season. And of course, too, we're forgetting that last week in his availability at the Clash, he'd mentioned that there was some sort of mess up with the arm that he had his shoulder surgery rather on a couple of years ago. He might have retore something, and he's going to race through that. I wonder if that will have an effect on what we see with his on-track product this year too.
Yeah. Let's talk about just championship contenders when you don't mention Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, and Denny Hamlin. I think that we're seeing a transition of sorts. I mentioned I don't think Brad Kay is a contender. I think Joey Logano is on the downward spiral. My hot take to open the show, I don't think he gets into victory lane this year. Those are guys I'm already counting out. But then you ask who is going to step up and be a contender to be a first-time champion, somebody we're not talking about. Who are some names that potentially come to mind, but besides Christopher Bell or Denny Hamlin, that could break out and walk away with their first career championship in your eyes, Matt?
Oh man, first career. I was thinking, honestly, William Byron's probably the first that comes to mind. Being in Hendrick equipment, that's hard to beat, man. I mean, anybody in Hendrick equipment, especially that 24 car, they've proven to be very consistent. Um, I think Byron's right up there along with the best. And then obviously, if 2311 kind of gets some things figured out, I think Tyler Reddick's had a lot of speed. Obviously, a few years ago, won his way into the championship four at Homestead. So if he can get there, I think he's got a very good shot. He's one of those guys like Larson who can run the wall there. So if he can get there, I think you better watch out for him.
Dominic, a lot of changes in NASCAR this year. We mentioned already the playoff format going back to the chase is a big deal. The schedule, of course, we already knew about San Diego and Chicagoland, but now we're all of a sudden we found out recently the Roval's gone. That Charlotte, the Oval is back for that chase race. Among other things going on this season, what are some of the changes that stand out to you? What are you looking forward to that's new in 2026?
I brought it up last year too, and I'll bring it up again. I think North Wilkesboro coming back as a points race the first time since 1996 definitely draws my attention. That's going to be a very fun follow when that race runs this summer. And gosh, I look too. We didn't really have a lot of off-season changes like we've had years past with a lot of different drivers and number swaps. But one name, kind of to answer your question with Matt, a name I'm really excited, not just because he won last week too, but I've been really high on Ryan Preece to have a breakout year. And I feel like that 60 team, they've got a solid foundation underneath them now. Not only because they've won, but they had a full year in 25 to be able to really get things under their belt. I feel like Ryan Preece is due for a major breakout year, and Chase Briscoe are two names that I'm going to be looking for in 26.
Yeah, Chase Briscoe's a very good one as well. I like that. And Carson Hocevar, I don't think he's going to be a championship contender. I'm surprised that he re-signed with Spire, Matt. For a long-term deal because I'm sure he would have had plenty of opportunities and some better equipment. But maybe he sees something there that they're building towards. But I would be surprised, Matt, if Carson Hocevar doesn't find a way into victory lane and that chase this year.
Oh, for sure. And Dom, I totally agree with you on Chase Briscoe, by the way. I think the world of that guy. He's I mean, obviously getting to the championship for last year. Got to watch out for him this year. But Hocevar for sure, I think is a guy based on the previous few years and obviously how he ran in the Clash already this year. Man, they are a team driven to win a race. I mean, they are going to win something. I don't know what, even if it's the All-Star Open, they're going to win something this year. But for sure, I mean, he's been really aggressive and obviously he's really exciting driver to watch. We'll see how it unfolds. If he can quit pissing people off, I think he'll have a shot at some wins.
Yeah, I think so. I think you guys are spot on, absolutely right about that. Matt, do this too. Um, when you look at speed weeks, and then of course we had the Clash, and I know that I think most of us agree we weren't a fan of how things went down with the Clash, and probably I like the idea of running Bowman Gray, but maybe not in January. Um, with that, like, how important is it between that and then speed weeks here to get your season started off on the right note in the right foot to get your footing forward for this championship run?
Confidence goes a very long way. So if you can start off really well, that confidence and that momentum can carry you very far, in my opinion. So I think it's a big deal for Ryan Preece as long as he can stay on the ground at Daytona. He'll hopefully have some good confidence going into the race and um, maybe give it a shot at him. But yeah, Hocevar, even Ty Gibbs actually was running really, really good. That's another guy who is gunning for his first win. Still, I'm surprised that he still hasn't won yet, but he's another guy that you're gonna have to watch out for too.
Yeah, I was waiting for the rant, Matt, about the Clash.
Oh yeah, well that too. The Clash needs to go back to Daytona, all right? And it needs to be the Budweiser. We're going back to the chase. Let's just go back to that whole era, all right? Let's bring back the Clash at Daytona, except it turned into what it turned into because all these people, we had all these rules and had to make it exciting and make the race longer and allow more people in and pole winners, make it 20, 30 laps and run it. That's it. Make it at night, make them draw for their starting spot, do all kinds of fun stuff. But that's what the Clash needs to be.
I think we just need to add another exhibition race. Call it the shootout
Potentially.
at Daytona, and then run something the week before the Super Bowl. I think that's a good idea to have something, especially since that week is wide open in the sports world. Why not take advantage of it?
Oh yeah,
I think
right before the Super Bowl. I mean, who's not watching for something? Everybody's bored because football's got a week off, and I mean, I think it's a perfect spot to have an exhibition.
yeah, you could call one the Clash and the other the shootout.
There you
Like
go.
I
Let's bring
I
them
would,
both back. I'm with
yeah,
it. I like
yeah.
it. I do, and
That's
I do love the events at Bowman Gray and over in California where we ran it too. So I'm a big fan of them. So I'm good with both.
yeah. Maybe we could find a way to work something out there as far as that goes.
Oh,
But
the nostalgia.
yes. Hey, we're all about it here on the Racing Roundtable. Dominic, looking at 2026 and what's ahead this year. The kind of I want to talk about the future of the sport real quick. We have the charter situation figured out. I know that Steve Phelps is out as commissioner now. There's some big question marks about how things look going forward from here, and there was some nasty things that went on. But I think at the end of the day, we come through feeling pretty good about where things that we can put that behind us and move forward from here.
Yeah, December is now a distant memory in regards to all that, and the charter system is figured out. And the one thing I do wonder is because, of course, not everything's, to my knowledge at least, has been disclosed as to, of course, the settlements. And I'm not even worried about the money amounts, but I do remember it being brought up where I wonder if maybe things will be said in July or August. Oh, that's the way it's always been. So I'll be curious to see what has come out of that agreement from the settlement. If there's anything that team rules, etc., those will be things to follow. Maybe the partners, the broadcast partners, will have some pretty information that they'll be able to share. But nonetheless, when you look at the future of the sport, you can only go up, I think, from where it was and being, let's call it what it was. That lawsuit dragged NASCAR and everything into an unnecessary spotlight and through the mud. And we got to the point where we almost had a situation where a jury was going to determine the future of stock car racing in our country. So great that the sides came together, and now we can focus on racing. Now we can focus about what we've been talking about on this show all last year. Are they going to be doing more horsepower at the short tracks, which they are? So there's now some tweaks we can have to the on-track product. They've tweaked the playoffs and how all that works back to the chase. So now it's just a matter of trying to win back the fans. And I got to say, too, guys, that ad that had dropped during the Super Bowl, at least on social media, the Hell Yeah campaign that NASCAR is going back to. I think Brad Pettis, friend of the show and NASCAR competitor himself, had put on social media that like that's what NASCAR is about. It's kind of informal, a little laid back, and we want people to come enjoy the race. And I think that appeal and that marketing campaign needs to be pushed forward. I think that ad was a great step in the right direction.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's shift gears now and get to our news and notes. Dominic will take things from here of the top headlines in the sport heading into the start of 2026. What do we got, Dom?
Man, so many ways we can go, but let's start with the guy that I said was going to be a championship contender in 2026, Brad Keselowski, getting the clearance to run at Daytona. Of course, Keselowski had the injury in December, a skiing accident that ended up sidelining him. I believe he needed some surgery and some course time to recover from that. But in a NASCAR test at Charlotte Motor Speedway earlier in the week, was cleared and given his ultimate final clearance to be able to compete in this weekend's Daytona 500, keeping that multi-hundred start streak intact that dates back all the way to 2009. But more importantly, keeps Keselowski the forefront of being able to challenge for that championship in 2026, Tyler.
Yeah, that's a big deal for Brad Keselowski. It was an unfortunate thing that he'd suffered that injury, and of course, he missed the Clash. And I don't think there was any doubt that he would be back for the Daytona 500. But just to have that medical clearance and he can put this behind him, that's a big deal. And Brad Keselowski, he's yet to win a Daytona 500, but he's been very good when it comes to these drafting tracks. And the ability he's shown, that Ford RFK camp has shown a lot of speed in speed weeks over the years. Brad Keselowski, Matt, I would say, going into this year too, has got a lot of pressure on him because yes, he is a team owner and he's not going anywhere from that organization. But if the results don't improve, then even as the boss of that organization, he's got to look himself in the mirror and say, am I the best driver for this team? We don't know what's going to happen when it comes to a third charter because Legacy takes that charter from Rick Ware Racing. And, Ryan Preece just got in victory lane last week. And we know that, Chris Buescher is a very capable racer. If you're the team owner, the past champion, Brad Keselowski, you don't want to be sitting there when it's all said and done and at the end of 2026 saying to yourself, like, maybe I'm the problem and look in the mirror and say, maybe I'm the one that's actually holding this team back from their on-track performance.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Brad's a really analytical guy. So I think he's one of those guys who is going to be pretty self-aware if he gets to that point. But I don't think he's there yet. I think he's still got a few good years left. And I think he's maybe more than a few. From the way he was talking not too long ago, it sounds like he's in it for the long haul. I think he might be a Mark Martin of the sport, to be honest with you, running for wins at 55. But we'll see. In this day and age, I don't know if that's possible, but I guess we'll kind of find out with him. And to comment on your Daytona 500 comments, how he hasn't won it yet. I mean, they literally made a commercial with him over the offseason about trying to win the Daytona 500. So it's who knows? We'll see if he can kick it off right, Dom. You might be off to something here.
He's younger than Hamlin, too, I will add, because Danny Hamlin's now the elder statesman of the sport and the oldest full-time driver. So Keselowski's got plenty of time, guys.
He does. He does have plenty of time, but the clock is ticking. I would say, Dom, that for him, knowing that they've done well in Daytona, it's important for him to get off to a fast start here this season.
And if I remember correct, that year that you and I were at the 522 or 23, he led the majority of the laps in the six cars, first time in the six car. And I think he even left Daytona as the points leader. They're just bad fast. Bad. Brad Keselowski is, and at least this comparison, I don't want this to be taken out of context, but gives me those Dale Earnhardt vibes on the super speedways. He's this generation's Dale Earnhardt on the super speedways, where it feels like Brad can just see the air. He has a different feel and a different vibe that most drivers just don't have on the
That
super
aggression's
speedways.
bit him a few times before, though. I mean, you think back a couple years ago, it seemed like he was spinning everybody out trying to bump draft him. I mean, that's what you get when you're the most aggressive, though. It seems to be lead to some success here and there.
Yeah, there's some parallels I think you can draw between the late great Dale Earnhardt and Brad Keselowski on super speedways. But man, and see that's where that hot take comes in, Tyler, at the top of the show, talking about how we're going to see some dry spells broken in the Daytona 500. I look at Brad Keselowski or Kyle Busch. We're looking at a throwback to 2011. One of those guys is going to be your winner of the Daytona 500.
Hold on a second, guys. We'll get to picks. We'll get to picks. We're almost there. We're
I'm
almost
teasing.
there.
I'm massaging. I'm
You're
just
almost
teasing it a
giving
little.
everything.
I
Okay,
told you I'm
okay,
picking somebody else, Tyler. It's all right.
Yeah, I didn't reveal my
okay.
pick
Well,
yet.
one thing
either.
at a time.
I'll pick at least two guys when I pick.
One thing at a time here, guys. What else we got going on, Dom?
Corey Heim. Heim time is moving to the Cup Series, not on a full-time basis, but we're getting some more races with Heim in the 67 and 2311, including this weekend with an attempt at the Daytona 500. Corey Heim's schedule was revealed a few days back, which includes Daytona, Kansas in April, Texas in May, along with the Coca-Cola 600, Nashville later that month, the San Diego race on Father's Day weekend, the Chicagoland race on 4th of July weekend, Indianapolis later that month, and then in August, the second Daytona, Darlington for Labor Day weekend, the second Charlotte race, and then the finale at Homestead. So Heim time's getting a bump, I believe, 5 races in 2025, so more than double in 2026.
Yeah. Guys, I would say this when it comes to Corey Heim. He is going to be in the NASCAR Cup Series full time in 2027 for 2311 Racing, but I don't know what ride that is. Tyler Reddick's a free agent. He could move on to another team potentially. Riley Herbst did not have a very good rookie campaign, and we don't know if he's going to be back in that ride after this upcoming season. I think we're all pretty certain Bubba Wallace is going to be back. But that's where I look at with Corey Heim is, this is an odd year for him, that he's not going to compete for a championship on any level, that he's going to run some Cup. He's going to run some truck. He's going to run some O'Reilly Auto Parts Series races. And I think that he's just kind of going to go out there and make the most of his opportunity. And, I would say this is a long shot with Legacy getting that third charter. I think the worst case scenario for him is landing at Legacy, potentially on loan, one way or the other. A long shot, though. But with that, I think if you're Corey Heim, it's an odd year for you. I don't know if this is what he prefers. I doubt it. I think every driver wants to run for a championship, but he'll make the most of it. I would be surprised if we don't see him in victory lane in the truck in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series at some point this year, and I think that he could have some very good runs in those 12 Cup starts potentially. I think the sky's the limit for this kid. He's one of the brightest up and coming stars I think we have in the sport right now, Matt.
Yeah, it truly is. I mean, really, the sky is absolutely the limit for Corey Heim, but it is frustrating to me, man. This whole situation with him, uh, it's actually really aggravating. Like, how can you win half of the races at the Truck Series level and not have a full-time ride the following season? Like, that blows my mind. Like, how? That's crazy. It's frustrating to watch as a fan and a spectator, and um, as a driver. It's like, man, it's great, but it almost feels like it means nothing at one point. So, uh, hopefully at some point he can get himself into the Cup Series. Obviously, I mean, it might be kind of a hot take given the situation, but I think it's more likely that he ends up in the 11 car. Personally, I think he'd be a perfect fit for that seat once Denny's done.
But now let me add to this, to your point. I see where you're going, but isn't he in the 2311 camp? Isn't he a farm system driver for them? Like there would have to be some buyout or something, move heaven and earth. Like maybe Toyota has to step in and say, no, he's going to Gibbs and replacing Denny in the 11 here. I mean, there would have to be a lot of politicking involved for that to occur. I don't think it's impossible, but I think that's still Might not make some folks happy over at 2311, but with that said, Toyota's probably got more say than anybody in reality.
I mean,
Yeah,
I think there's a good
totally.
chance.
Yeah.
They're pretty. I mean, obviously they kind of control the support that the team gets, and obviously the team's got a lot of funds behind them. But on the same token, I think it's really important for um, ultimately for either of those teams to pick him up wherever he ends up. If I'm Toyota, man, if he gets away, that would be just unacceptable.
And it's a great problem to have for the Toyota camp. And Matt, you would know it better than anyone else as a competitor who's driven stock cars. There's nothing more than you'd want to go out and win each week and compete for a championship. So it has to be on one end very frustrating for Corey Heim. On the other end of that, too, a great opportunity. And we've seen this blueprint before. This has been done with a Cup Series championship winning driver in Ryan Blaney in 2015. Not sure and was not able to put a full schedule together in any series, but just kind of cherry picked in the National Touring Series. And we got to see him run the Wood Brothers car. We got to see him in a Keselowski truck, in a Penske Xfinity Series vehicle at that time. So the blueprint is there. There is certainly a method to what maybe might be looking like madness right now for Corey Heim in a weird 2026 type of situation, but there is greener grass on the other side of it, and Ryan Blaney's proof, Tyler.
Well, and to that point, Matt, if you're Corey Heim, are you picking up the phone and calling Ryan Blaney and like, hey, how did you walk through this situation? Are you calling Ryan Preece? I know Preece isn't a Cup champion, obviously, but guys that have, Alex Bowman, was in limbo there for a bit. Like, are you looking to those guys like, hey, how do you navigate this?
It probably wouldn't be necessarily a bad thing for him to do, but I don't necessarily think he's got a bad mindset about it. Just hearing him in some interviews this last week and at media day, but I really think that he's actually going to have a really fun year. Me personally, I know I would want to be running for a championship at that level, and it'd be frustrating to me to not, if I just won half the races in the truck series and won the championship, to not have a full-time ride the following year. But I think he's going to have a really fun year because for the most part, he's just going to go to the racetrack, not worry about points too much, and just really have fun. I'm sure he's helping teams race for owners championships, but really for himself, though, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity to learn a lot, go out there, put it all on the line, and make some mistakes and learn for whenever you get that next big opportunity.
Dom, what else we got?
Looking ahead to this weekend, and of course, the season starts, but the season's going to end.
Well, hold on. Yes, sorry. Homestead, right?
Of course, you got to interrupt me. Man, I had a nickel.
I thought you were getting ahead of things. You guys already got ahead of things a couple times. Make sure we got one thing at a time.
Yeah, Tyler here to keep us in line.
Every time Tyler called me out on this show, probably like 15 cents already. Shoot. Yes.
Okay, that's my bad. Please continue.
No harm, no foul. Homestead is going to end the season, and it looks like 2027 might be on the table as well. So, reporting from NASCAR.com earlier in the week from Tuesday talks about that while a schedule has not been set for the 2027 season, that Homestead-Miami Speedway might end up getting the finale for a second year in a row. We recall NASCAR has said they want to have a rotation once Phoenix had let go of the final race in 2025. But if it stays at Homestead for 2 years, that kind of provides some stability and then potentially provide a rotation after that. And I got to tell you guys, too, to kind of add to this, I got the opportunity to speak with the president of Homestead-Miami Speedway, Guillermo Santa Cruz, at Phoenix in November. And he said, of course, I'd love to tell you that Homestead's going to be the championship finale every single year, but it is nice to rotate that. And it's good for the sport and it's good for growth. So I know there was a lot that came out of that, of course, Homestead would be a great spot, but they have a lot going for them this year with other national sports. I think the joke too, Tyler, we just got to hope when that NFL schedule comes out that the Dolphins have a bye week or that they play on Monday Night Football so it doesn't interfere like we've seen.
Or on the road.
Yeah, or on the road. That works out too, yes.
I've been to a championship at Homestead. I was there with Dominic. We shared a hotel room. We shared a bed. And it was awesome. Sharing a bed with Dominic was great. Pause. But they did an incredible job when they hosted the championship race for those years. And Phoenix did a really good job the last few years as well. But, I like what NASCAR has of this idea of rotating the championship. But the reality is there's limited opportunities of where you can actually put this championship race because it's in November, some years late November, depending on the schedule, with the Olympics and stuff like that. Um, we just saw what happened with the Clash, the mistake of putting that in North Carolina in January. Well, you got weather involved in November too, whether it's snow or just cold weather, and so that kind of limits where things can go. And race fans, this is not a knock. I'm just speaking facts here, just being real with y'all. Race fans are not built like football fans. They're not used to being in cold weather environments for races, and I don't blame them one bit. But that's going to be tough to sell tickets that way. So that's one factor, and then another factor is that right now the championships at NASCAR own tracks, like Homestead, like Phoenix. And so not only do you have a limit of where you can have this just based on weather situations, but then also you have a limit on NASCAR owned tracks to host this as well. And then so then you start to narrow things down. Well, you can't have a championship at Daytona or Talladega, so that takes them out of the equation. And so, like, Matt, with where we're at right now of this, unless there's some trading that they want to do with SMI, there's just not a whole lot of play. I know that Kansas Speedway has made it known they want to host the championship, but I lived there. It's cold in November there. Like, I don't think that's realistic for them. Like, there's only so many places you can do this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're pushing boundaries. We're going to North Carolina in January. So who's to say we can't go to Kansas City in November? But Kansas would be a great place for it. But again, yeah, like you say, the weather and obviously Las Vegas comes to mind, and there's quite a few different places.
But that's an SMI track too.
That's true. That's true. So, and again, you look at Charlotte, but again, you're kind of in that same level with Kansas, right? It's kind of hard to decide where you want to go. I think, this year in Michigan, it was pretty warm in November. I think we can go to Michigan for the championship race.
Michigan for the championship race in November. Just when
November.
you speak that, watch weather comes in Michigan the first year we do that, just based on the luck of NASCAR.
Well, actually, it wasn't. It was snowing on Thanksgiving this year, so it would have been a
no,
been
but
a fun
hey,
time.
I will say NASCAR did luck out actually pretty well when it came to weather for the most part last year. So maybe the trend continues. We'll see. Dominic, like I like the idea of rotating the championship, but there's just only only so many places you can go. Maybe you can work out. I've also heard the idea of a trade between NASCAR and SMI, where maybe NASCAR takes the All-Star race and SMI gets the championship, and maybe rotate that. Like there can be some negotiating here potentially.
That could potentially work. Is it bold? Is it a hot take? Think Martinsville, if we're on the SMI or I guess NASCAR owned tracks, that Martinsville could potentially host a championship someday or the final race. But
Richmond,
but these are cold places too when it comes to mid-November. So we want to talk Kansas being cold. These places are probably on snow advisory at some point too during November, during these parts of the year. So things you have to be mindful for. But I do like the idea of a rotation. I don't know if NASCAR would see like a straight up trade with the All-Star Weekend versus Championship is fair. So maybe they'd have to give up another race or something. But I could see that being on the table. You can't rule anything out.
a 2-for-1 trade.
Yeah, okay, we'll give you the All-Star, or we'll give you the championship race, but we want the All-Star race and a date in September or whatever. Maybe there's like a trade like that, where it's not a straight trade, but NASCAR would get more of something on that, and you have a rotating basis. Maybe that could work.
Work with SMI writing a paycheck, writing a check, just buying it. Potentially that might be what it would come down to as far as that goes. In a perfect world, guys, Matt, where would you like to see the championship if we couldn't, if we can work out trades or deals, some negotiating with SMI or whatever? What are places that you think would fit?
Man, it kind of opens it up now that it's not a one race championship. To be honest with you, I mean, at this point, if Talladega's in the chase, why wouldn't you run it at Talladega, right? I mean, if it's going to be the same, it's holding the same weight as it would any other place in the chase. So, um, you could go to Talladega or Daytona now and run the championship race there. I'm not saying I would want that to be the case, but I'm saying you probably could now that we have the chase format back. But if I'm talking about ideal racetracks, I would obviously put Homestead on there. I think everyone would. Realistically, Kansas might honestly be in my rotation lately. That place is, um, I've got a sweet spot for it because that's actually one of the most favorite places I've driven on so far. But honestly, Las Vegas too. I think that'd be really great to keep it at least one of them out west in the rotation. I think it'd be really cool. You could almost rotate it between all the chase tracks or something like that, all around the country.
Yeah. I think that if SMI is involved, then Vegas and Texas certainly would come to the equation. Those would be, I think, possibilities.
We can leave Texas off until they reconfigure 1 and 2 over there.
Hey, things have been a lot better at Texas the last few years. I will
And they
defend.
got a ways to go yet.
I will defend David Starr Speedway in its honor. Dominic, in a perfect world, where would you like to see the championship?
Well, Matt, like to take a Clint Boyer saying here, you took the words right out of my mouth because I remember as a kid seeing a headline, maybe Mark Otto with NASCAR.com wrote an editorial about how we start the season in Daytona, we should end the season in Daytona. And because we do not have a one race championship, I think that'd be great. Move what was the July race has become the August race and the playoff cutoff race. Let's start the season with the Daytona 500 and let's end under the lights in Daytona in October or November. I think that would be my perfect scenario. Make it Daytona every year, eliminate the rotation. Let's say you, Tyler.
For me, it would be work out a deal with SMI and let's rotate Vegas, Texas, Homestead, Phoenix, Atlanta. Um,
Is Daytona in your rotation?
no, but I don't hate it like other people. It's a no for me. It's like a Randy Jackson American Idol no. It's like it's no from me, dog. But there are worse ideas. I'll put it that way. I'll say that.
Fair.
Last thing before we wrap up today's show, Dom. Let's talk odds.
Oh gosh, one of my favorite things to talk about. I love looking at the numbers and seeing what odds makers are going to put out as their favorite. So we're twofold for this show. We have the Cup Series Championship odds. But we're going to start with the Daytona 500. When we look at this weekend's Daytona 500, at the time of this taping, for a lap has been turned on the racetrack. If you guys had to guess, who do you think odds makers think the odds-on favorite for the 500 is?
William Byron.
Joey Logano.
Ooh, Matt, you'd be correct. Will Barnes at 11-1, but Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney right now are co-favorites at 10-1. Chase Elliott also 11-1, who's never won the 500. Nor is Blaney, but they're up front when it counts. Denny Hamlin, a three-time champion of the 500, comes in at 13-1. Kyle Larson, who's never won a super speedway race, 15-1. Austin Cindric, your 2022 champion of the race, at 17-1. Christopher Bell, who's never won at Daytona or Talladega, also at 20-1, alongside Kyle Busch, who's aiming for, I believe, his 23rd attempt at winning the Daytona 500. Bubba Wallace, 22-1, and I glazed over Brad Keselowski also at 20-1. Chase Briscoe, 22-1. Chris Buescher, 22-1. Ryan Preece and Tyler Reddick, along with Alex Bowman, each at 25-1. Your longest shots, and these are drivers that are in open vehicles: Casey Mears, JJ Haley, Cody Ware, Anthony Alfredo, BJ McLeod, with the exception of Cody Ware not being an open vehicle, all at 250-1.
All right. Man, that's it's tough, obviously. This is the toughest race of the year, I would say, to pick of all of them. But guys, if I'll be, I don't want to do this, but because I've been Mr. Negativity on this show, I'll do one for the people. I'm going to go with the people's champion, Chase Elliott,
Whoa.
to win the Daytona 500. I think Hendrick's going to have a lot of speed. The 24 is going to be tough to beat. I think the 5 is going to be there. I think the 48 with Alex Bowman is going to be there. But Chase Elliott still looking for his first Daytona 500 win. A lot of excitement about this format with his consistency, being a good fit and making that run towards winning a championship. I think it started off on the right note with Chase Elliott bringing home the title, bringing home the Daytona 500 championship. So I'll go with him. Matt, who do you got?
Well, my heart wants to go with Jimmy Johnson. He finished third last year. My man still got it, all right. Nobody's got faith in him anymore, but my man still got it, all right. Uh, I'm gonna pick him to have a good finish, but he's not gonna win. The guy who's gonna win is driving the number 12. Ryan Blaney's finally gonna get it done.
Ooh.
Well, I like that. By the way, Jimmy Johnson's 65 to 1 at the time of this taping for a win, but a top 5 finish is 11 to 1. He
How
did
about
finish
that?
top 5 last year.
He did indeed.
It's not possible. No, and obviously he's won this race before. So yeah, we'll see what Jimmy can do. Who wins the Daytona 500?
So I've been teasing it all along that it's going to be somebody that has never won the 500 that pulls into that coveted Daytona 500 victory circle. You have so many drivers who've run this race at least 10 times that have never won a race. They've come so close. Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski come towards the top of that list. Giving me Kyle Busch to earn his first Daytona 500, his 64th career win, and his first win since 2023.
Let's talk about Kyle Busch for a second. Dom, I'll go to you first. It's been a while since he's been in victory lane. We know that Richard Childress Racing has had their struggles. How important is this year for Kyle Busch to get back to victory lane and to start running up front again? At this point in his career, he's had an amazing career, but I feel like, sorry, Matt, to do this to you, that this year to me is a sign of one or two directions. Either it's a bounce back for Kyle in a late surge at the end of his career, or he could be going down the Jimmy Johnson route to end his career and just those consistent struggles. That's what I feel like Kyle Busch is in entering this year.
They've shown signs of brilliance. And the 8 team, Tyler, you picked Kyle Busch when there was a championship 4 format that he was going to make the championship 4 in 2023. There's been something off since that Sonoma weekend where he finished runner up in 2023. It seems like there just hasn't been something that has clicked with that team. But we still see speed out of Kyle Busch. We still see a fast number 8. Randall Burdett, and they did a great job where they could, but he's moved on. He's working with Connor Zilch. But this is a make or break year, I think, if you're a Kyle Busch fan. I think if you're Kyle Busch personally, you got to be looking at this year like, okay, is it more the team or is it more me? Because Kyle can only carry the team so much. You also have to look at somebody like a Denny Hamlin, who's older than Kyle Busch. And you have to be looking at that thinking, if Denny can do that at 45, 46 years old, I can still do that given the right circumstances. So not all hope is lost, but this year will be very telling for that 8 team. And for Kyle.
Oh, absolutely, it will be. Matt, do you think we see Kyle Busch back in victory lane this year?
I tell you what, he was close a couple times last year and had some things happen that didn't go his way, but I don't know, man. I'm a little worried about him. Hey, what's up, Christopher? Yeah, it's been
Christopher Aragon has entered the chat.
Does Christopher have any hot takes?
What's your hot take for the 2026 NASCAR season?
He held up the number 1 Ross Chastain champion.
I think that's it.
Championship. Lightning McQueen's going to win the 2026.
All right, let's go, Lightning. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
All right. So we have our Daytona 500 picks. Let's go to the odds now for the season championship for 2026. Dom, who are the favorites to bring home the title?
When we look at the Caesar Sportsbook and we look at the favorites, who's going to win the title? And I feel like those didn't get posted right away because, right, we're still trying to figure out the format, how all of that looks. But according to the Caesar Sportsbook, ahead of the Daytona 500, your odds-on favorite, before I reveal, who do you guys think it is? Who is Caesar's predicting as the champion of the 2026 Cup Series season?
I'll say
Bell.
Caesar's likes Christopher Bell. Oh,
dang it. I think I got it before you. Let's see.
Okay, Christopher Bell comes in at plus 550 or 5.5 to 1. Right now, Kyle Larson is the odds-on favorite to win the championship. Go back-to-back at 4.5 to 1. Denny Hamlin 5 to 1. William Byron 6 to 1. Ryan Blaney 6.5 to 1. Chase Briscoe, who made the champion for last year, at 9 to 1. Chase Elliott, your 2020 champion, at 10 to 1. Tyler Reddick and Joey Logano each at 16 to 1. I don't know if Tyler would agree with the 16 to 1 there with Joey Logano, but Connor Zilisch, guys, at 25 to 1. He has the 10th shortest odds. So
I have a question.
yes.
For our resident teacher in the room, Mr. Aragon. I'll raise my hand.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Can I place a bet on Connor Zilisch to win Rookie of the Year?
I don't see that as a problem, but I believe he's the only Rookie of the Year candidate too, right?
That's what I'm going for. Yeah, just easy money, right? Yeah.
The student doing the trick question there. Yeah, but that 25 to 1 is very, very interesting to see that people are that high on Connor Zilisch. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility he makes the.
I think he steals one of the road course wins from SVG.
That's very doable. I think that's totally doable.
Pretty bold.
I think he
might
steals
be the boldest
one.
take of the day. Anybody who steals one from SVG might be the boldest take of the day.
Ross Chastain at 35 to 1. Alex Bowman 40 to 1. Some of your longer odds there. SVG comes in at one of the longer shots to 81. Keselowski at 100 to 1, by the way.
Okay. My to win the NASCAR Cup Series championship this year. Homer, he's from my home state. I'm not being a homer here. I'm being honest. I think Christopher Bell brings home the NASCAR Cup Series championship. He's been very good in the postseason. He's been very consistent. The guy can win anywhere. Short tracks, mile and a halves, road courses, you name it. Christopher Bell is tough to beat, and he's got as good of equipment as anybody. I think Christopher Bell is your champion. And had we been racing this format in prior years, we could have been talking about Christopher Bell as a multiple-time champion by now. So I'll go with C. Bell to get it done. How about you, Matt?
I think that's a great pick. For the sake of picking someone different, because I think Christopher Bell is high on that list. I'm pretty high on Ryan Blaney. I think he's one of the best in the sport right now, and I don't feel like he's getting enough credit for how well he's been doing. So, especially when you look at his teammates, Joey Logano is one of his teammates who, again, is a multi-time champion, has won the Daytona 500, and honestly had a ton of speed throughout his career. And honestly, I feel like he's made Joey Logano the second-tier driver at that team. So I think that's a really big deal, and honestly something that really should go a lot longer way than it probably is. So Ryan Blaney, I think he gets it done.
How about you, Dom?
Yeah, well, I'm about to say this, but Tyler, I agree with you. Christopher Bell's going to be our 2026 champion because look at the consistency that the 20 team has just had time and time again during that 10-race stretch of what we had over the playoffs before this year. But nonetheless, the 20 team is more often than not very fast. Adam Stevens atop the pit box. You've got a championship winning crew chief in him. Two-time champion with Kyle Busch. Christopher Bell is fast anywhere they go. It's hard to overlook that. And it's hard to overlook the Toyota camp this year. And it just seems like there's something clicking. Christopher Bell seems relaxed. He's got this humility to him. And he's just got this rawness to him, I think, as a race car driver. And you want that behind the wheel. And I think Christopher Bell, as your 2026 champion, has a nice ring, has a nice bell to it.
There you go. Those are our picks for the championship there. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Dom, before we go, one last thing. We certainly got to, pay our respects to Greg Biffle, who was a friend of the show, died tragically, several weeks ago, and was a hero. Did so much for the people of North Carolina. He is already greatly missed, and he leaves the world with an impact, not just on the track, but what he did off the track. It's hard to they don't make him like Greg Biffle. It's hard to compare.
No, they don't. And I feel like we got some special access to Biffle over the years. And Tyler, I don't want to overstate. Like, we did not know him on a personal level, but we definitely got to know him in a professional setting. And he did this show with us. I think he even joked with you, hey, call me back when it's episode 96 or 196. So he was very keen on being on the show with us over the years. And I think that kind of hit for me too. We were talking about this during the off season, Tyler and I, but we've had the privilege and honor of having so many people on this show. But man, really sad that Biffle is the first guest that we've had on the show that is no longer with us. And
yeah, very unfortunate news.
Yeah.
Guys, real quick, just around the room, what we got going on this week. I'll be in Daytona. Certainly excited to be there. I'll have coverage on NASCAR Roundtable. Dominic, you're going to be all over this Daytona 500 as well.
RacingExperts.com is where you can find us. We'll be covering all news, action, and angles of the race weekend. Of course, the Daytona 500 watch party here in New Mexico. How about you, Matt?
Working hard and trying to work on that next opportunity we get. That's what we're doing.
I love it. Great stuff, guys. We'll put the checkered flag out on this edition of Let's Go Racing. Subscribe to the show, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. Check us out on social media as well. And check out the Studio Soapbox Network. This show, the Jones Report, Coach Mono's podcast, also more racing coverage on NASCARRoundtable.com as well as the RacingExperts.com as well. For Matt Kemp and Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time here on the Racing Roundtable.